As Rotarians, we have what we call a four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it, we use this in all of our dealings, you know, whether it's by thought, word, or deed. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better relationships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? And we are sincere about that. And I have to ask, especially in politics, it doesn't seem to apply, and that is disturbing to me. The health care bill, not to be on people, but the health care bill is, you know, how much did health care bill cost? I mean, what was the cost that was advertised of the bill?
Well, it reduced the deficit by about
How much
$110
was the
million.
cost?
In what period of time?
When the bill was signed, it was, they said it was gonna cost what, $1 trillion?
That's over 10 years, yeah.
But they took out the fees to doctors. Why did they take out the fees that were to be paid to Medicare doctors?
The doc fix.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we did that. That's because we passed that separately than healthcare reform. So that was about 2 months after, or 3 months after.
To deceive the American public, that's why. They want to keep it below the trade.
No, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, it's a separate area of law. The doc fix is something I can guarantee you. The Republicans or the Democrats, if they're in charge of Congress, they're going to do it. Libertarians might not, but the Republicans, no Congress is going to cut Medicare reimbursement rates by 23%.
I'm just saying.
No Congress is going to do that. I'm confident in saying that. I mean, John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, no one's going to do that. They're going to spend that money.
Doesn't that seem deceptive?
Well, again, I don't think so. I think what was deceptive is all these negative ads about healthcare reform that we saw on television and everybody else, saying that there was a death panel, or saying that, I even see ads now saying it covered illegal immigrants, which it didn't.
About cost.
Yeah.
And if separating out the payments to doctors from the cost of the bill, and saying this is how much the health care bill is going to cost, and the doctor thing is separate, isn't that deceptive?
Well, no, I mean, the doc fix would have happened even if there was no healthcare bill passed.
I'm just asking.
So, you know,
I'm just asking.
so absolutely, I'm telling you that the doc fix for Medicare, which will happen again, by the way, in December, we're going to do it again.
Can we give some time to answer
Yeah,
that?
let me answer that. So the short answer is no, that wasn't deceitful. The doc fix needs to happen regardless of whether there was healthcare reform or not. The doc fix will continue to happen whether there's a Republican or Democratic Congress because it would kill Medicare if reimbursement rates were cut 23%. So I can pretty much assure you that that will continue, and it just has nothing to do with healthcare reform.
The whole bill was deceitful in how it was portrayed to the American people. The American people didn't buy it. That's why it remains unpopular to this day, and the majority of people want to repeal. How many different ways? Okay, the cost, which you just described, it was deceitful. It's well over $1 trillion in cost now. They keep rescoring it. There's no way to estimate the number of regulations required for this. The Congress, the CBO, the healthcare department, they cannot estimate the regulations because the bill is so complex. You were told by the president and by your congressman that if you like your healthcare, you get to keep it. That was a lie. And if it wasn't a lie, then they're incompetent, because anyone would know that when you set up the incentives such that most people get their health care from their employer, that when you set up the incentives, such as with AT&T, their cost $4.7 billion a year to insure their current and retired employees. The cost that they pay to fine is $600 million. How soon is it going to be before the first company in an industry comes under financial pressure and says, we're giving up health care, but we're doing our share, we're paying this cheap fine? And that's going to put financial pressure on every other business in that industry, and they'll topple like dominoes. It was a lie, and I know that they know it. They said it's going to increase healthcare choices. It's decreasing them. Colleges and universities are dropping their healthcare coverage because under this bill, they would have to continue to provide that coverage once students leave school. Child-only policies are no longer being written because the risk to do so is too high. Principal, the insurance company, has decided it's no longer going to write any more policies. It's getting out of the industry. This whole thing was set up to do one thing and one thing only, and Curtis identified it in his opening statements, and that's to make the private healthcare insurance industry fail so that the only alternative by the statists that run this country right now is that the government must take it over. That is the only possible outcome of this bill.
Well, I'd like to go back to the first part of your question and examine the four-way test and think about the Congress. And I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans. I'm talking about the whole institution. Do they tell the truth? Are they fair to all concerned? Do they build goodwill and better friendship? Do they do things that are beneficial to all concerned? The answer to those four questions is no, 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 and no. See, this is October. So the September 28th edition of USA Today carried an upper two-page table or a graphic of 32 provisions of the health care bill that go into effect between 2010 and 2018. 5 of those 32 items raised the costs of insurance companies. 10 of them raised the costs of various levels of state, local, or federal government. And the other 17 are all some form of fee or taxation on either individual people or private companies. That bill is an absolute disaster. And it's designed, as I said, and as Stephen backed up, to destroy our healthcare industry so the government can take over.
One other piece of deceit, 10 years of tax revenues that pay for 6 years of benefits. That's the only way to come out to be deficit, or a debt deficit beneficial, the only way.
You know, I have a different perspective on this, obviously. I was very frustrated with their healthcare debate. I wanted more of a truthful debate, fair to all concerned. What we got, you know, and I had a lot of town halls, some of you might have come to them, is people would say they were always attacking it for things that were, I said, look, if you want to oppose this healthcare bill, that's fine. We can certainly disagree about different elements of it, but don't oppose it because of things that aren't even in it. I got people saying, why, if it's so good, why isn't Congress putting themselves in it? They're not, and all these, well, guess what? Of course Congress is putting themselves, why would Congress put themselves above the law? They're in the exchanges like anybody else, okay? We're going to go off of the federal health insurance policy and into the exchanges. I mean, why wouldn't we? It would be absurd. It would lose the trust of the American people if Congress exempted themselves. I mean, I would never have supported such a law. People say they're death panels. No death panels. People say it's covering 15 million illegal immigrants. Not a single illegal immigrant is covered by it. So, I mean, we can have a discussion about what's in it, but it's got to be a truthful discussion about what's actually in healthcare reform.